News. The Victorian Premier has, for now, been spared from needing surgery on his fractured vertebra and broken ribs. But he admits his recovery and rehabilitation will be a long journey, meaning it could be some time before he's back in the top job. Dana Morse is outside the Alfred Hospital for us. Dana, what do we know about the Premier's condition?
Good evening, Paul. Well, earlier this afternoon, the Premier tweeted that the good news is there are no plans for him to have surgery right now, but doctors have told him he has a long road of rehab and recovery ahead of him. Now, here in the ICU, he's now been moved to a general ward to continue his recovery. The head of the ICU, Associate Professor Stephen McLaughlin, has told us that the Premier was in good spirits and that there are no plans for surgery at this stage. Now, he initially sustained those injuries to his T7 vertebra and several broken ribs after he fell down some wet stairs while on holiday over the long weekend last week on the Mornington Peninsula. Now, while there are no plans for surgery, he still does have a long road to recovery ahead of him. Earlier today, I was speaking to Dr. James Gillespie from the Australian Orthopaedics Association, and here's what he had to say about the Premier's injuries.
It would depend on how quickly and how comfortably he moves. Everybody's a little bit different, and everyone's response is individual, but it would be baby steps to begin with, and then maybe up and down the corridor. And this would not be happening in days, but in weeks.
Now, what we do know is that while the Premier is on the road to recovery, Deputy Premier James Merlino will continue to act as Premier here in Victoria, and Parliament is set to resume on Tuesday, but it's looking less and less likely that Dan Andrews will be able to attend himself, and that Deputy Premier James Merlino will be in the top job for now.
Dana Morse at the Alfred Hospital. Dana, thank you. Well, hospitals, prisons and aged care facilities across Greater Brisbane are in lockdown for 3 days after a local doctor tested positive to COVID-19. Victorian health authorities have moved quickly.